Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ken Evans. I'm the Managing Director of the Accelerator program. And this is our celebration of the third cohort of the program, the third iteration of founders going through this B2B Accelerator program, where they've had an opportunity to test their ideas and grow and work in a peer-to-peer environment. I'm not going to say much because I'll be coming back on later in the agenda, but at this point, I want to introduce our chairman of the Tampa Bay Innovation Center, Chris Paradis, who has been around the program for a lot longer than I have, and has helped to foster the growth of the organization, and has also been a big backer of not only this program, but the B2B Accelerator, which has really only been around for a couple of years, but the entire Innovation Center, which goes back to 2003, and also one of our sister programs, the Co-Starter programs, which he champions on a regular basis and has done far more frequently than we've done the Accelerator. And I'll let Chris talk a little bit about that program because it really shows the breadth and depth of what the Tampa Bay Innovation Center does for our community and the reach that we have in trying to provide services and resources to entrepreneurs of all types of businesses, not just technology. But with that, Chris, thank you again for your support. I'm going to turn it over to you for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Ken. So I'm delighted to be here, and I'm super glad that this class has gone through and done such a good job with the Accelerator and are so promising in what they're going to do. So I won't spend too much time talking about them and steal anybody else's thunder, but I did want to talk a little bit about the Innovation Center itself and the fact that we're in a big year for the Innovation Center because our groundbreaking on a purpose-built incubator center is going to occur in July of this year. And that is something that's been 12 years in the offing. And we just have a few more hurdles to get over, like you always do on a big project like that. And we're happy to get through those and actually see the ground get broken soon on that project, which needs to be done in about 2 years. So with that, what is the Innovation Center and what is it doing? It's, of course, a place where entrepreneurial companies, particularly tech companies, can come and work and thrive with other tech startups and growing businesses. And the Accelerator program is one facet of that. Ken mentioned the Co-Starters program, which is a earlier stage or not even started yet program for entrepreneurs that want to learn how to start a business and want to go through that planning process of actually coming up with a business plan and figuring out what their product's going to be and where their break-even point is. And we offer that through Creative Pinellas with a scholarship for artists. And we've had a number of artists come through and they now have thriving businesses in the St. Pete region or Pinellas County, or at least in Tampa Bay. And that's always exciting to see a business like art actually make money. And every dollar that artists make from entrepreneurism it goes a lot further than the dollars they get from grants. So we're really excited to see when they come out with innovative ways of selling their artwork. And, one of the newest ways is NFT. The Bitcoin revolution continues with all things blockchain. And now you can actually sell or license your artwork with blockchain attached to the digital artwork. And the newest thing is trying to get back maybe a little bit of money when the artwork sells at a higher price every time. So some Bitcoin can, or Ethereum or whatever coin, can come back to the artists and is another way of funding the arts. So with that, I am going to make my introduction of Tanya Elmore, who is the president of the Tampa Bay Innovation Center. She's the one that's busy on a day-to-day basis and leads a team of professionals that provide the services of the Tampa Bay Innovation Center to the Tampa Bay community and through the Accelerator program all across the US and even to companies outside the US. And she's been doing this for, well, as long as I've been involved, which is a long time. Since 2004, she's been involved with the Tampa Bay Innovation Center, even when it wasn't called the Tampa Bay Innovation Center. And every couple of years is instrumental in coming up with new and innovative ways of helping the entrepreneurial community. So I would like to introduce Tanya, and Tanya, if you could say a few words and continue the program.
Sure. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for your leadership over the last quite a few years. I won't say how many. We have been at this program, started an incubator in like 2003, the first in Pinellas County in the defense tech industry. And we've evolved over many years. We worked with hundreds and hundreds of tech companies through our tenure, but can't do without the leadership of the folks participating on the panel today. Thank you everyone for being here, and for on the attendees who are participating and listening to the pitches today. And even so with our board of directors. Our board includes Chris as the chairman, and then we have Dean Akers, I see he's on here, Rory Binger, we have Rob Capusta, and Doug Martin, Sean Hughes, and Paul Hayes. So we are very excited to have a very strong board, especially as we move into the next iteration of our journey on the Innovation Center. This is the highlight of the new building that we just rolled out. It's a 45,000 square foot innovation center. In this center, we will be our permanent home. We've had, I think, 4 or 5 different locations through the last 18 years. And the innovation building itself will just serve as solidifying the local entrepreneurial ecosystem. It will have, a digital fabrication lab with 3D printers and laser cutters. The venue will continue to serve small businesses and entrepreneurs in the programs that we have brought forth over the many years we've been in operation, and we will be doing creative new programming into the space. There will be 30,000 square feet of dedicated incubator space, classrooms for training programs, a large event space that will accommodate over 200 attendees. It will help us do really live pitch sessions when we get out of the pandemic and bring more people together in collaboration space. It will also have a community cafe, so we can bring in all of our community partners, and then 10,000 square feet for corporate innovation partners. This is a project that's near and dear to my heart. And of course, the next person I'm going to introduce to you is Mike Meidel, who's with Pinellas County Economic Development. Mike has been a big part of our journey over the years, and I am sad to say Mike is going to be retiring this week as his last week with us. And I can't say thank you enough for your leadership, your support. You've been a pleasure to work with all these years. Thank you for the support of Pinellas County. Would not be here without your efforts. And so with that, I'll just leave it to you to kind of probably do our last showcase event, but he will be coming back for our groundbreaking ceremony and our ribbon cutting. He's not going to get off the hook for that. So add to the excitement of the project and what we're doing as we move forward, Mike.
That's great. Yeah, no, have worked with Tanya and the Tampa Bay Innovation Center for over 16 years now. And through various iterations, starting out at the Star Center at Belcher and Bryan Dairy Road, that the county still owns and operates as a industrial park in a way, that Raytheon being the primary tenant, but several defense contractors in there. And part of our job at Pinellas County Economic Development is to create more and better jobs for the citizens of Pinellas County. And we do that by recruiting businesses from outside the state to locate here and expand. We work with our existing companies to help them to grow. And then we also work with startups. We're trying to create entire new businesses, entire new industries right here in Pinellas County, and help them get the foothold they need to scale up to be a major employer in this area. And they can run the gamut from manufacturing to financial services to tech to IT of all kinds. And we've done that over the years. Raymond James started here in Pinellas County and is now a Fortune 100 company. So we're excited to have had several success stories. Jabil moved here early in their career. Tech Data is a startup here. Again, 3 Fortune 500 companies right here in Pinellas County. And we're excited to look for that future Fortune 100 company right here in this group today. The potential for scaling is phenomenal, and we want to make sure that we have the resources here in Pinellas County through Tanya and through our team here at the county to make sure you have everything you need to grow into the future. This session. I appreciate you going into this program and being part of this Accelerator cohort. It's an opportunity for you to really refine who you are as a founder and who your business is. But know that this is just the start. We want to be with you throughout the life of your company, help you find the space to grow, help you find the money you need, help you with business plans, with connections, with whatever. And Tanya is a part of that. The new Incubator Center will definitely be a part of that. Hopefully some of you will be tenants there someday. But beyond that, we have a small business development center that is based here in our county government department, and they work with small businesses, develop export plans for when you decide to find those overseas customers for your product or service. And we have in-house representatives from the U.S. Department of Commerce, Commercial Services, and from the SBA Export Finance Division. So again, we can help take you offshore when you're ready for that. Just every aspect of the lifestyle of the life cycle of a company can be assisted here through our department, and Tanya is your best connection for that for you as startups. We are excited about the incubator. We got a $7.5 million grant from the federal government to do it. That typically incubators get about $2 million, so we're excited to have one of the biggest EDA grants in Florida history, and $4.5 million in a local match provided by backstopped by the county commission. But we are in the midst of a fundraising effort to build out the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and to finish that building, and Tanya is leading that up. We do help support Tanya's operating funds through the operations of the Star Center that I mentioned earlier. We do rent the space to Raytheon and other tenants, and create a little bit of a surplus there that we're able to help fund Tanya's efforts to reach out to these startup businesses. So I hope you know that you're part of an exciting family here, and we look forward, my team looks forward to working with you in the future, and I definitely will be back for the ribbon cutting. I'm excited about this. So I'll turn it back over to Tanya.
Great. Well, thank you, Mike. The project overall will sustain about 1,200 jobs each year and generate about 127 million in revenue. So that'll be after the 4th year of operation. And it'll solidify, like I said, that not only the ecosystem, but the Innovation Center and all the things that we do within Pinellas County to support entrepreneurs. So once again, thank you for your leadership, and I will turn it over to Ken Evans to take us to the next phase of the project. Ken?
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you, Mike. We appreciate the kind words and the ongoing support. And again, congratulations on your upcoming retirement. We're going to miss you very much. You've been a huge supporter of the program overall, and especially having you as part of the Accelerator has been a bonus for us. My name is Ken Evans. As I said in the beginning, I'm the managing director of the Innovation Center's Accelerator program. This is the 3rd cohort, the 3rd group of companies that we've had go through this program. It's a 12-week program focused on a various range of ideas and company development. The group that went through this time is a little bit more advanced than maybe what we had in cohort number 2. Some of them actually had product in market, in beta, or in production. Some actually at a revenue producing stage. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been some great challenges. But it has really been something that relies on the support of the overall community. And if it wasn't for the support that we have from Pinellas County, EDC, and all of our community partners throughout the ecosystem, and all the other entrepreneurial support organizations, all of the companies that give of their time and talent, all of the board members and the staff members that we have, we wouldn't really be able to pull this off with just writing a curriculum and holding a Zoom session. It really takes a lot of effort of the overall community to make something like this happen. That being said, I want to do a special thanks and a special shout out to all the speakers that we had come on. If it was just 12 weeks of me speaking, I think people would peel off after the 1st or 2nd week. But we bring in a number of experts from the area in areas like product, like design thinking, revenue generation, marketing, but also the leadership skills, some of the softer skills, because starting a startup, running a startup, being responsible for product and people and all those different things can be a very, very stressful journey. And so we want to make sure that people go into this with their eyes wide open. We invite a number of different speakers who have been startup founders, as well as mental wellness and healthcare professionals who can really address those issues and talk about the balance that you need to have to survive that journey, and for people that you hire to survive you as an entrepreneur founder. So it goes both ways, and we try to have a very, very broad agenda. I'm the first to say that I am very, very biased towards making sure that people get the product right, because as we've seen from a lot of research that's out there, that's the number one reason for startup failure. Ideas can be great, but unless you build a product that actually gets some traction, that can attract customers and address a need, you are generally going to be the only person that uses that product. And we really want that scalability. So we focused, I would say 60, 70, maybe 80% of our agenda on making sure that people are paying attention to what users need, making the why about the user community, finding those early adopters, and really building a product that is going to get some product market fit. We also have an engaged community of all those speakers and all the companies that they work for. I can't possibly mention all of them, but all of them have contributed to the time and talent and treasure to making sure that this program has a good, solid foundation of the skills and the experience to help our founders in any possible way, whether it's coming in as a guest speaker, acting as a mentor, or even just connecting us with people in the Rolodex who may be potential customers. It really is a community effort for all of this to happen and for us to get to the point where we are here today with 5 companies ready to present to you. So with that, I am going to introduce our panelists, and I will get out of the way after that because it really is about the companies presenting and the Q&A that they've prepared for. So I didn't really prepare to go in that order, so I'm gonna introduce people in the order that I actually have on my script. And first talk about Mark Swanson, who's been a longtime supporter of the Innovation Center, an early board member, and certainly one of the authors that helped put this program together way before I was on staff to do that. Mark has a 27-year career CEO and CTO of VC-backed software and information technology firms. His current scorecard is, I believe, includes 7 startups, 4 venture-backed with 5 exits, including an IPO. Mark started his career in the U.S. Army, where he commanded 2 military units, including forming the first unit of Apache attack helicopters. He later managed several high-tech projects as a test pilot. He is currently the managing director of Lane 5 Ventures, an innovation consulting firm whose projects include working with Fortune 500 companies, startup technology companies, and creating innovation centers for the Department of Defense. Thank you, Mark, and I'll let you do a little quick intro as well as soon as I get through all this. Joy Randalls is our second panelist. Joy is a serial entrepreneur and technology executive with a passion for launching and building new businesses. Joy has launched 14 ventures successfully, exiting 9, and currently still operating 3, and has helped launch probably in the order of 90 to 100 some odd companies. I'm never really going to go by her resume or LinkedIn profile because the moment you mention it, it's out of date. She's raised in excess of $360 million in venture capital, led 17 acquisitions of venture-backed and public companies for 2 IPOs. Joy is a huge advocate of the tech ecosystem and for diversity and equality in our tech ecosystem. She coaches female founders as well as underserved founders in the tech community and up-and-coming founders throughout the Tampa Bay, or really throughout the country. She has no boundaries. She's been a technology executive with Fortune 50 and entrepreneurial experience, covering all aspects of businesses, including many CXO roles, sales, marketing, focused on enterprise with clients from SMB all the way up to the Global 5,000. So thank you again, Joy. This is your 3rd time on the panel. We're happy to have you back as a panelist and also as a speaker. And last but not least, Dan Feldman. New to our panel, but not new to our family. Dan is an associate at Topmark Partners, a growth equity firm focused on high growth technology-enabled business. Dan is responsible for evaluating investment opportunities, conducting due diligence, and assisting in the underwriting and execution of Topmark Partners growth equity investments. Dan is based in with Topmark Partners here in Tampa, Florida. Prior to joining Topmark, Dan was a co-investment analyst at Hamilton Lee, where he focused on evaluating investment, executing growth equity and leverage buyout transactions alongside private equity sponsors. Sorry, Dan. Dan is a native of Tampa, Florida, and prior to joining Hamilton Lane, he was an intern at Topmark Partners. Dan has a BS in Enterprise Management from Wake Forest University. So with that, I do a quick intros from each of the panelists, and we'll get started. So Mark, do you want to say anything as an intro? You are muted.
Yeah, real quick, it's very exciting to be part of this. Having seen this effort grow since I first moved here back in the early 2000s to now, everything's kind of coming together. We have the educational institutions on board. We have the ecosystem with the governments really understanding the value of bringing innovation and entrepreneurship. Great airport, great place to live. We have the incubators and the support system that Tanya's bringing to the table all across the entire region. And we've got support of the government organizations that are really promoting this. And we're seeing the results of people just moving out of traditional innovation areas like Silicon Valley, New York, the upper Northeast, flocking down here. I think we've been helped with the coronavirus pandemic, but that's only accelerating an existing trend. And I think the future is just all ours.
Thank you, Mark. Joy, any comments?
Actually, I'll just echo what Mark had to say and kind of add to that. To his point, I've actually talked to 11 new founders who have moved or are in the process of moving into the area in the last 60 days, which is pretty mind-boggling. And I have 2 lunch meetings next week on the same topic, that founders that are relocating here from other areas outside, all technology companies, which I think is pretty awesome. I'm lucky that I get to work with companies from Tampa all the way to Sarasota, kind of across the bay. So from the top of the bay to the bottom of the bay, and kind of how we look at it. And I would say that, I relocated here in 2001. And I've lived all over. Even while I was here, I built businesses in Silicon Valley in New York, and actually in Israel and quite a few other areas. It has changed dramatically in that time period. And I think we've actually only gotten started, really, but I'm happy to see that. I suppose the way to look at it is that startups are kind of finally getting the credit that they deserve for what they do in the community and how they add jobs and how they grow.
Great. Totally agree. Thank you very much, Joy. And Dan, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would just build on what Joy said, in that, as Ken mentioned, I'm a native of Tampa Bay. I would say, Tampa and the broader Tampa Bay area are becoming more and more exciting in terms of places to live and places to start businesses. So that being said, I'm excited to be a part of the panel, excited to evaluate 5 exciting companies, and excited to.
Okay, you ended up back on mute. I'm not sure if that was my mistake, but.
Yeah, no, all done. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So with that, I'm going to bring up our first of the 5 companies, and they will be giving a very, very brief presentation. I've limited them, told them somewhere between 60 and 90 seconds, which everyone groaned about, but I believe less is more. I think having a good, concise description of what your company opportunity looks like and how you're meeting that opportunity is the best way for us to kick off our panel Q&A. So with that, I'd like to welcome Gabe Higgins to the stage to talk about block spaces. Gabe, it's all yours.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you to the panelists and the Tampa Bay Innovation Center. I'm super happy to be here. So I'm Gabe Higgins, co-founder of Block Spaces, and we're making blockchain practical for businesses in order to increase efficiency, security, and trust within their industries. So beyond the initial hype, blockchain has now matured to a point where it's radically transforming the financial landscape and being applied to many industry use cases, and a growing number of the world's largest companies have deployed a blockchain strategy today. So currently there are hundreds of enterprise blockchain networks in various industries, use cases, including distributed identity credentialing, supply chain provenance tracking, and of course, digital assets. So the problem is that all the downstream partners and suppliers and vendors within those business ecosystems also need to connect into these new business networks to benefit. However, the mid-market companies lack the budget and technical resources to adopt a whole new application stack So it's making this very feasible. So our solution is Blockspaces Connect, a middleware platform as a service built to ease the specific challenges of blockchain integration. Our workflow automation platform utilizes a library of pre-built integrations to connect existing business applications to multiple blockchain networks, providing data visibility and increased efficiencies beyond individual disparate systems and information silos, all for an affordable monthly cost for mid-market companies. We've just raised 1.2 million in a seed round and are generating revenue and have several potential partners lined up for beta testers for MVP aiming to launch in Q4. Thank you for your time. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate that. We'll just stay in the same order, at least for the first go around. Mark, do you have a question for Gabe?
Gabe, I know you guys raised a recent round. I'm wondering what are you hearing from out in the Silicon Valley of what was their primary interest in investing in your company?
Yeah, so the opportunity here seems pretty large. Obviously, the emerging space of blockchain integration is just now getting started, but there are projections of this growing very fast over the next decade. So we're seeing that we feel like we're in that inflection point right now where we can kind of build a bridge across this chasm where blockchain adoption has seemed to halt because of this issue of integrating. So if we can lower that barrier to entry especially for SMBs, then we can help facilitate that growth.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Joy, do you have a question for Gabe?
Yeah, so I'm pretty familiar with this space. I actually am on the board of a company that does integration out in Colorado. My question would be, I think Mark's question was great. How do you intend to educate the mid-market companies on how to do the integration with your platform and remain compliant? Because the vast majority of those companies that you would be targeting have 1 or 2 or 5 compliance requirements. And I'm just curious as to kind of how you plan to do that so that they can work through it. They don't have a lot of bandwidth either. So there's some issues with timing on how they allocate resources to training. I understand the value. I'm just curious as to how you're going to do that and which verticals you're going to target first.
Yeah, great questions. So as far as integrating compliance, we will build up our own integration team to help those companies starting off. And we're really targeting companies that already see the business value and are already connecting or need to connect to an existing network that's already out there. So the education barrier, we feel is going to be pretty low. We're not giving 101 blockchain presentations to our target market. We're targeting these existing networks that are already deployed, already have shown ROI. They're just not driving the value because there's no participants on these networks because of this issue. However, we need to tackle the specific compliance requirements is going to vary from industry to in business use case application. So yeah, we'll just deal with that.
Which verticals then? So which verticals are you looking at targeting first?
Yeah, so some of the pilot partners that we have on deck are produce providers for larger distributors and like companies like Walmart, for instance, that have already deployed their network, just lacking participants. And of course, the financial banking system with managing digital assets, these new digital systems. Of course, the Federal Reserve is now talking about deploying their own central bank digital currency, utilizing this technology. So we see a mass shift with financial services needing to adopt software to be able to manage these.
I think the supply, I give you a little bit of feedback. I think the supply chain is the way to go. I think that you can kind of hang out there on the finance side, but the Fed is a long way from having a digital currency.
Sure. Yeah, but other companies like PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, Cash App, Venmo, they're already adopting crypto. So we're going to enable other businesses to be able to deal with those other payment rails as well.
Great, thank you, Joy. Dan, do you have a question?
Yeah, you kind of hit on it at the end of that answer, but I'm curious which kind of industries, whether this is a specific type of company that you're going after in terms of customer. That's my first question. Second question is kind of how are you communicating the value proposition of blockchain integration?
Yeah, so the value proposition, great question. Thanks, Daniel. The value proposition, like I said, for our target market customers, they're already sold on the value proposition. They get it. There's been many pilots to demonstrate the ROI with some of these use cases. So again, we're not trying to we're targeting the lowest hanging fruit, meaning that they already are bought and sold on the prospect and the ROI of blockchain. They just need a way to actually do it. So hopefully that's what our platform is looking to address, is that need, bring down the barrier to entry and help them connect into any of these networks, including multiple networks. At the same time, which is also another issue.
Got it. And then one quick follow-up. So for those particular companies who understand the value proposition that you're bringing to the table, are you seeing other kind of competitors in the market that are trying to provide a similar solution? And maybe you can speak to competitive differentiation.
Yeah, sure. So we feel like we're pretty early or right on top of this emerging kind of integration solution platform. We do see some potential competitors vying for a similar kind of solution, but they're tackling different applications or use cases, namely specifically evolved around digital assets, such as cryptocurrency exchanges and wallet applications. But nobody is tackling this issue with enterprise blockchain and the adoption with mid-market companies. We feel like we're the first ones tackling that specific arena. But we know this is a problem. We've seen it with some of the projects that we've done over the past few years. So we think it's a matter of time for other competitors to come on the market soon.
Got it. Thanks, Gabe.
Thank you, guys.
Is that it for the questions? All right, Gabe, thank you very much. Pleasure having you part of the cohort. Next to the stage, I'd like to welcome Nicholas Travis with Code One Medical Devices. Nick, it's all yours.
Sounds great. Thank you. So today we're presenting our airway device. There are approximately 7 million upper endoscopies per year in the United States alone. Although they're common procedures, they do present a unique set of challenges, and they have high rates of airway-related complications. From an airway management perspective, the primary complications include hypoxia, which happens when the blood oxygen levels fall below 90%, and aspiration of gastric contents, which occurs when stomach contents enter the lungs. These complications, they can lead to increased healthcare costs, longer procedure times, and increased patient mortality and morbidity. So we're developing an airway device designed to allow anesthesia providers and endoscopists to safely perform these upper endoscopy procedures and reduce the incidence of complications. It's designed to reduce the need for sedation, thereby reducing hypoxia rates, keep the patient's airway open, and it has the ability to monitor respirations and deliver oxygenation and ventilations if needed. So we are currently developing a prototype, a functional prototype for validation in mannequin models and continuing our customer discovery efforts. We're additionally continuing to develop our relationships with contract manufacturers and distributors to be prepared to launch whenever it comes time to bring this product to market. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Nick. I'm going to go in a different order this time. Mark, I'm going to start with you with the first question, please.
Okay, so Nicholas, I understand, the market being a regulated one, it's difficult to get into, which actually presents a barrier to entry. But, being a small startup like this, how are you going to navigate the barriers to entry to the market and get your product out there?
Yep. So there's definitely some big industry players that are in the space. And there's quite a few that, particularly in the airway management space, that have been quite fond of acquiring smaller companies with devices that will fit within their portfolio of devices. So our goal is, we are a lean startup at this time. Cash is important as far as not overspending and getting it through the FDA and to where we can bring it to market. At that point, the plan would be to scale and prove out the value, build out a sales team and gain traction in hospital systems to kind of prove out the value proposition. And then the end goal would hopefully be to be acquired or get a licensing from one of these bigger players.
How long do you think it would take in time and money to bring this product to market?
Yeah, so being realistic, so this is a pivot from a previous airway device that we were developing. So this is a relatively recent change over to this one. I think realistically, considering the roadblocks that we're likely to encounter, somewhere in the Q1, Q2 of 2023 would be realistic to getting this product to launch. And money-wise, getting through the FDA, probably somewhere in the $250,000 range. With all the non-clinical testing. It is a class 2 510K, which saves us significant costs.
And I assume you have somebody or another party helping you do that?
Yes. Yep. So we work with quite a few consultants, and then we have a great relationship with our engineer who actually has brought 10 products through himself through the same pathway.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Great questions. Daniel, you're up next.
Yeah, you mentioned you previously had a similar product that you were working on. Maybe you can talk through that product, what you learned, and how you kind of got to this one, and why you feel like you've solved maybe some of the complications with the past product. Maybe a little bit of the story.
Absolutely, yeah. So the past product, was an airway device more designed for pre-hospital use, for emergency use, and at the time, initially, I was just a paramedic, and I thought you think of an idea, you file a patent, and then people buy it. So we've learned a lot. It would take me forever to tell you everything we've learned, from then to now. But one of the issues that we're running into before we bring this product to market was realizing that in the pre-hospital space, particularly with adoption, there can be a lot of challenges, and it really is fragmented. And you would get certain fire departments or EMS agencies to adopt it, and it's a really long haul. And there's not much as far as continuing education, staying on top of the newest and best as far as airway management. And that's somebody who came from being a paramedic. So when we looked at this opportunity, it seems to be a bigger opportunity. And there's a lot of talk in the space right now. There's papers everywhere about, particularly for these ERCP procedures, what we should be doing for airway management.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Joy, you're up next. Any questions for Nick?
Yeah, just a couple. So the guys asked similar questions to what I would have asked. I guess my question would be the team itself. So you're a paramedic. Are there any other medical professionals on the team? Is question number one. And then if so, or for you, do you guys have relationships with the potential clients and or medical device companies?
Yep. So I'm a paramedic and nurse practitioner. My brother, who's more on the business side of things, is with me. We're the only two active full-time employees. We are quite possibly bringing on the engineer as an equity partner as well. And then we're actually, as we're going through our customer discovery, we've identified at least one practicing physician in this space who would be great for an advisor. And we do have an advisor on board with 30 years of experience. He did more of the GPO management and rolling out devices with big hospital companies like, or group purchasing organizations like HCA.
Okay, great.
We've got a little bit more time. Anyone have a wrap-up question from the panel?
I would just say I think there's a couple of things. I think that you clearly have a good handle on your numbers and kind of those sorts of pieces, which you've done your homework. Sometimes those battle scars you get along the way allow you to do that, which is good. I would look at on your team, if it were me in looking at this, I would look at maybe finding an advisor who has built and brought to market through the clearance, all the way through clearance, an advisor who has an engineering firm, something like that. There's some of those in the area. If you could get one of those people to come on your advisory board, I think it will save you an inordinate amount of time and money to look at that, because they've already kind of been through those sorts of things. And I'd be happy to suggest a couple of people to you offline that you could reach out to talk to.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Mark, Daniel, anything? Are we good? All right, Nick, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good presentation. With that, we're going to bring up our next presenter, a third company in the list. Johnny Crowder is with a company called Cope Notes. Johnny, welcome to the stage. Please take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. So mental wellness has become the most expensive medical concern in America, but our healthcare system hasn't really scaled to prioritize prevention or meet the rising demand for the care that folks are asking for. So we set out to fill this expensive and often deadly gap between capacity and demand. We're relieving administrative burden for providers while making it easier for people like you and me to improve our mental health on a daily basis. So Cope Notes combines the proven psychological principles of peer support, positive psychology, and ecological momentary interventions, or EMIs, to deliver brain training, life-changing health education in the modern era's favorite format, text messages. And because we built Cope Notes with scale in mind, we can onboard a brand new enterprise client in just a few minutes, even if they're asking us to support 1,000 or 1 million users at once. No wait lists, no downloads, and no personal info required. And without the privacy and accessibility limitations of traditional apps, we've already impacted nearly 18,000 lives in 94 countries around the world. And as we approach the 1 million text milestone, we plan to expand our footprint here in the US by closing our 10th government contract before the end of this year.
Very good, Johnny. Thank you very much for presenting. With that, I'm going to move the order ahead and start with Daniel for this one, and then go around from there. So start your 5 minutes Q&A now, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Johnny. I can certainly appreciate the spirit of your company. It seems like you're doing really great things. I was just curious, do you have some case studies on maybe how Cope Notes has improved the lives of some of the customers that you guys are going after?
Yeah, we have a few different examples of that. So we have a reviews page on our website where you can see testimonials and what people have said about their personal experience with Cope Notes. And then we have a few letters of recommendation from some of the B2B clients we've worked with, as well as we're working on a case study for our contract with Pasco County, Florida, because we had a great success there. So we're going to do like a web and video case study on that. We're working on it right now.
Got it. And then second question is, would this be something that kind of would be coupled with traditional therapy or medical help, or is it, designed to serve as a replacement, or maybe you could speak to that?
So it can be coupled with other resources. Some folks do use it that way, but a lot of the gap that we've been filling is for people who aren't engaging with those existing resources. So let's say an underutilized EAP program where there's a school counselor, but no one's asking for her help. Or on the other side of that spectrum, you have, let's say, a really long wait list at a therapist's office or something, and people are booking 6 weeks, 8 weeks out. Cope Notes is more of that best first step, that easier low barrier entry into engaging with that help. But we focus more on automating that engagement and follow-up. So I would say you could use it as a supplement, but it's also great for normalizing those help-seeking behaviors and even boosting engagement with existing supports that are being underutilized.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, to your point, that help can be difficult to get for a number of different reasons. So I can perfectly understand.
Great answer, Johnny. Okay, with that, Joy, you're up next, please.
I think it's pretty cool, actually. I remember when we were going through and I kind of got the gist of kind of what you were doing in the beginning. I didn't realize, quite frankly, that you had as much traction as you do. So that's excellent. I guess my question would be, in talking to the different people, I think that the case studies that Daniel mentioned would be extremely helpful in getting larger deals and larger contracts. You say you're talking to government agencies. Is one of those the VA, out of curiosity?
So we just had a meeting with a representative from the VA yesterday, and it was like the 10th in a multi-year series of meetings.
Yep.
It seems like we can't get to the right people. So if you have any recommendations on who, we've had a lot of interest from the VA as a whole, but it seems like no one knows like the person that I should connect with.
Yeah,
so that would be great.
There's quite a few programs, but there's a couple programs that are run that the VA runs in conjunction with rehab centers here locally, and I know some people who've gone through those programs. So veterans that have gone through those programs, I would think that would be a great way to start, because those people absolutely need the help. And the way the programs work, it might be a little bit easier to kind of break that barrier to entry because they're group type programs. So there's some that meet in person during the day. So there's like during COVID, it's been virtual, but it's about a 2-hour morning meeting. Mm-hmm. And normally they meet in person. So those are the outpatient type programs. Then there is an inpatient program where there is daily group along with an inpatient program for rehab for alcohol and substance abuse. I think this might go a long way there, because one of the big triggers there is kind of not having that ongoing support for those veterans. So it would be a good kind of testing ground. I'll see if I can get you the right name of the person. I know somebody who's connected to that. So I'll see if I can get you the right name of the person who's in charge of that at the VA up by USF, actually, the VA hospital up by USF.
That'd be really helpful. Thank you very much.
Sure.
We're an ecosystem that's here to help. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate that. Mark, do you have any questions for Johnny?
Yeah, I'm impressed with your growth too, to have that many subscribers. I guess my first question is, are you a text-only platform? And if you are, do you have a roadmap to expand your services?
Good question. So we only administer services through SMS, and that's for a number of reasons. Definitely the privacy, definitely the accessibility. We're also finding that we've surveyed thousands of our users asking, do you wish this was on Facebook? And they say no, because my personal information and data is tied to Facebook. And then we'll say, oh, do you wish it was an app? They said no, because the App Store collects my personal data, or I would need to remember a password or update software. So what we're finding is not only individual users appreciate the ease of use and efficacy of SMS, but we're also finding that this is our ticket into some of those larger kind of Luddite public sector contracts that aren't really as quick to adopt new technology. We're sort of in that sweet spot where the most high-tech person you know still sends and receives text messages. And my grandmother, who has dementia and is 80 plus years old, still sends and receives text messages. So I think if there were appropriate demand from our users, we would absolutely look into it. But so far from user surveys for both B2C and B2B, we haven't seen that interest.
Now, I would argue that to focus on what you already know works and try to grow that faster than try to diversify, because I think you're right, that is the lack of features is what differentiates you.
Yeah.
And there's other products like that too. So I think that if I were you, that would be the strategy that I would pursue on this. Are you working, you mentioned that you're looking at other, we talked about the government, other agencies and stuff. Have you looked into corporate wellness or other channels maybe counselor networks or other things like that, that you can leverage it as a reseller or something like that?
Yeah, so we're working on a few channel partnerships. Right now, we shifted our focus to public sector late last year, early this year, just because somehow they are closing contracts quicker and deploying the resource quicker, which is astonishing to me. So those folks, those verticals that you mentioned are definitely on our roadmap, and we are getting inbound inquiries. We're not doing any outbound prospecting in those camps yet, just because we're seeing so much traction in the public sector currently.
And I guess my last question is probably for me the most interesting. I'm actually listening to a book right now called The Body Keeps Score. It's have you read that yet?
I'm very familiar with the book. It's actually downloaded on my Hoopla app. I haven't listened to it yet.
Oh, you need to listen to this right away. But the idea, I'm about 3/4 of the way through it right now, and there's some mental health problems in my extended family, and so it struck me as something that was interesting. But using this as I would call it a pre-tool, because this book talks about the pattern recognition of mental health, and it really goes through the science of it and how it's how the human brain forms. But there's so much data. It looks at it from a data approach. Is that the ability to use this as a precursor to a physical follow-up and take that data, because there's so many patterns in mental health, and be able to match those to certain patterns to even give recommendations on treatment type plans, and to use it as a tool that real mental health people, face-to-face stuff, or mental health professionals can gather information prior to a engagement, I think would be tremendous. Have you thought of this?
Yeah, without showing too many of our cards, we have a very colorful and exciting and promising product roadmap. We have an application regarding what you're mentioning. That's actually, the template of it is really robust. I can't wait to build. But like you said, become the master of one thing before moving on. So it is on our roadmap, and I will be sure to share it with you.
Well, I just think you've got the text messaging down to, looking at different use cases for a very pared down service, but then maybe plug in. Are you maintaining the data in the text messages? Do you record that and maybe anonymously, or?
Yes, so we keep it all anonymized in-house in our own database.
Yeah, because I think that ultimately may be the most valuable piece of your business for the counseling and psychology practice and other type research in the long run.
Yes, I'm super excited to work on that. And I might tap you if you have some ideas as we start working on it.
Yeah, I do. I know one of my classmates from the military academy was very high up he works in Orlando at the VA. So that may be something that would be beneficial. So just get my email address. I look forward to talking to you, Johnny.
Definitely. Thank you.
Super questions. Thanks, folks. And Johnny, you can save all that data for when you write your book. So absolutely. Thank you, Johnny. We'll chat later. Next, I would like to welcome up to the stage Gabriel Gavrilov, who I see is back in his office after a fire drill and participating with us in a quiet space. So with that, glad that all worked out for you, Gabriel. The stage is yours.
Yeah, no, thank you. They just had the fire drill out of nowhere, so I just kind of ran back inside after it's all over. But well, anyways, guys, my name is Gabriel. I'm the founder of Neuron Education. So everything that's been going on right now with all this chaos, and people working from home, working moms, working, and to the left of them, the kids are coming home at 2 p.m. and they need to make sure that they're doing their homework and they're being taken care of. So what we began seeing in the market is an opportunity where corporations are starting to have having a larger say in the work-life balance of their employees. And what you're also seeing is that worker stress is costing billions of dollars in productivity for corporations. And you're also seeing right now, specifically at this point, that from recruiting and retaining talent is really probably one of the most important priorities for organizations. Specifically within our market, where we see the growth is that, we believe that work from home is here to stay, specifically with the companies in our market, which are technology companies. And we also believe that family support is going to be a necessity in the next, starting now and in the next 5 to 10 years. So what we did was we built a solution which provides virtual childcare and tutoring as an employee benefit. So all it is, our platform connects employees to vetted college students, and we have an all-in-one solution that allows that to take place. And what we do is we quantify the data, the data for HR to show them the impact that we have on their employees. So currently, right now, we're in the early adopter stage. We closed 2 contracts, and we have a pipeline of deals, and our average deal size is just between $5K to $20K.
All right, thank you, Gabriel. I think we're back to starting with Joy, or is it Mark?
I'll go. I'm like,
I'm lost track. Sorry about that.
I don't know.
Whoever wants to speak first, so go ahead if you have questions for Gabriel.
I understand the problem. I understand the market. Tell me what is, from a customer acquisition perspective. So I think you've got the other pieces pretty well laid out. And from our previous conversation, I know that you have all the data analytics to kind of back it up. What's been the biggest challenge with kind of closing the contracts, and how long is the typical sales cycle?
Yep. So the biggest problem that we used to have was when we started talking with big numbers, for example, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 contracts. What would happen was the HR, the decision maker, the VP would need to get decision buy-in from other decision makers. And we noticed that really stalled the process because it was such a big amount. And that would really refrain us from even just starting the program, like just even getting like 5 or 10 parents using it. So the way we found to kind of work around that was we figured out that most VPs, at least the technology companies, they have like kind of like a slush fund, so they have their own credit cards where they can run programs under, let's say, or not just programs, they can authorize under like $10,000, like with a swipe of a credit card right then and there. So that's kind of what we started to really focus on, is being able to get these smaller contracts in place. And that's basically what we were able to do, and is focusing on the smaller contracts and getting people within those contracts to be successful and to grow.
So how long is the average sales cycle now?
Right now, it's about, last one was 4 weeks.
Okay. So when you're doing those pilot programs, are you, and I would call it a pilot program. So are you doing just a handful of employees inside of the company? Is that how you've gone about doing that?
Per office. So what we would do is we'd stick to an office, and we would focus on that office space. Yeah, we would have, let's say, whichever parents would be interested. So it could be a handful, 3 or 4 at a time. And basically, depending on how the pilot works, if it goes well, then they want to scale us. So the company that we onboarded for like a 10K contract, they love it. They see the ROI, they see the benefit of this, and they want to, scale us to the UK office, to the India office. So it's basically, starting small and kind of growing within them.
Okay, so I would, in my opinion, I would position it as a pilot, is kind of how I would position it going into these companies, that, hey, let's try it in a pilot program, and come up with a kind of templated sort of case study where you're providing the metrics that go back through. And after you get a few of those under your belt, what you can do is basically change your contract so that it's like, hey, the trial lasts for X amount of time. And you agree then to, you've already agreed to what your price point is going to be for a larger rollout. So you're doing that pilot for 10 or 20K, which is an easy piece to bite off. But now they've already committed for that 50 or 100 or 200K long term, and to roll it out throughout their entire organization. That's just how I would position it. because I think once you've got a few that you can kind of walk in and say, hey, here's examples of what we've done and how it's worked, that makes it pretty easy. And you'll be able to get rid of the tire kickers and get the people who are actually interested. It'll save you a lot in your sales cycle.
That's a good point. I agree with you. And that the sales cycle is a continuous process that we're always honing, to how we can reduce that lag time, because, silence is the biggest killer.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Joy. Mark, do you have a question for Gabriel?
Yeah. Well, first, I totally agree with Joy that talking about it as a pilot is a much easier sell. It also, I think it's valuable to you because it allows you to solicit very proactively feedback from the parents that are getting the stuff and learn quicker about your customer and what they want, and it helps you shape the offering earlier. And then they may not, I think a lot of parents, at least I would fall into this, would be interested in helping shape that and understanding what their kids are being taught. My question is, though, where do you get this content that you're working with them on?
So content as in?
As in the childcare and tutoring, like.
Yeah. So what we do is we we match the students based on their hobbies and interests through our platform.
Okay.
So the way it works is, so we have like a manual that we built. So I have two other partners in the organizations that are from the educational side. So basically what it really entails is, from the virtual childcare angle, is the college students read stories to the younger kids. They engage with them. We have some parents that use this as a way to teach their kids non-life skills. So for example, we have a mom that has a sixth grader, and she has an interest learning about like stocks and bonds. And she doesn't know, her mom can't teach her that. So she uses one of our tutors, our students from UMass Amherst, that does like basically teaches her, about stocks and stuff, in addition to helping her with homework, so basically it's really focused on helping the parent and understanding what does the parent want to work on for the kid.
And do you, these students that you get, or teachers, how do you identify them once you understand, like, parents are looking for specific things?
Yeah, so we have a system in place right now, and also through partnerships, but a lot of it is through referrals of other students. So you get high quality college students because they get paid. So we have the SaaS revenue where we charge a platform fee. Then we have the hourly revenue. So we pay the college students $20 an hour. We charge the corporations 30. So as it goes through the platform. So it's a really high wage for these college students. So they recruit their friends, other high quality students. And that's how we've been able to really get those people. And through,
just my daughter does online voice lessons. But she started with another company, and the problem they had is the instructors, the quality was so varied that my daughter, a number of her students said, hey, we just want to stick with you. And she was able to start off and spin off her own business. So my concern is, and advice would be, have something in place to make sure that the quality of engagement for your solution maintains a high standard. So, and then in terms of the corporations, what do your contracts look like? Are they cancelable in 30 days, or do you have a year-long contract, or what are you thinking there?
Yeah, everything is done on a yearly basis, and they pay everything up front for the contract. So yeah, and it basically that's basically how it is. So what they would do is we put a contract together. So let's just say you put it together for 10K, right? And you have, let's say, you provide them as like a pilot program. Listen, for 10K, you get access to our platform, and you get 100 hours of virtual childcare and tutoring for your employees, which is for us is only $2,000. That's the base of that. Everything else goes into our pocket. So that's basically how we've been able to structure it with them, and they pay everything up front, which is great.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Mark. Daniel, you're up next. Questions for Gabriel?
Yeah, I have a question and then kind of a statement. Joy mentioned that you have done a fair amount of data collecting, so maybe you already have a sense of this, but do you have an idea of, in talking to people, how many hours maybe per week an average employee would be able to spend, at the desk working versus maybe helping their math homework or with certain tutoring? I would think that if the answer is no, you don't have a great sense of that, I would think the pilot program would be great in being able to get a small pool of data that you can collect and average and be able to go out to new corporations and say, hey, on average, this pool of people were able to save this time. They weren't spending this amount of time with their kids doing tutoring. And then they start to get a sense of that ROI. So I guess to my first question, do you have a sense of that?
That's actually really interesting that you mentioned that, because we were going through the platform the other day just to put the month-end analytics. And what we've been noticing is that, first of all, the parents use it every single week, and they use it the same time every single week. And it's a lot of it's between 2 to 5 p.m. is where we see like really most of the activity is 2 to 5 p.m. On a consistent basis. So some parents that we've noticed, they have like a consistent call, like a senior manager call every Tuesday from, let's say, 3 to 4. And that's what we would see on a week-to-week basis, knowing that that's kind of how, when they would use it. So, and they would use, from what we've seen, about, I'd say 1 to 2 hours. I'd say 2 hours, that would be the max. I think more than 2 hours a week, we haven't seen that yet.
Got it. Yeah, I think the other component would be making sure that the students and the kids like the engagement with the platform, right? Obviously, that's critically important, or else the kid may be pushing back on the parents saying, I don't want to use that platform. It's not useful to me. But that's it for me.
Great.
All right, super. Thank you very much for the questions. Gabriel, thank you for the presentation. And we'll move on to our final company in the cohort. I'd like to bring up to the stage and welcome Chris Jones with RB Technologies. Chris, welcome. Take it away.
Thanks, Ken. So dietary supplements are not verified by the Food and Drug Administration. It's actually been found that 80% can be contaminated with germs, pesticides, or toxic heavy metals. And it's not until someone gets sick or hurt that the FDA will consider recalling these products. Additionally, 60% of manufacturers in the supplements industry are still using paper and pen or piecing together software applications to document all of their processes. They also lack the transparency and accountability that would be expected in modernized supply chain management. So we've built a system that helps dietary supplement and food manufacturers automate regulatory compliance and verify the source and purity of their products to ensure consumer health and safety. Now, market research shows that the global dietary supplement market was approximately 132 billion in 2016, with around 76% of US adults taking some form of dietary supplement. This market is expected to grow to around 278 billion by 2024. Now, our SaaS product incorporates industry regulatory guidelines with blockchain backend to help manufacturers easily track and meet quality standards and verify product integrity. Now, once information from the supply chain has been verified on our system, batch-specific information is shared directly with consumers. So not only can supplement brands say they are producing a quality product, but can actually prove it this way. Now, we expect to move from beta to first commercial launch in late Q2 of this year, and already have $2 million worth in orders lined up through 8 brands with annual contracts.
All right, thank you, Chris. Appreciate the presentation. Mark, we're going to start with you this time. Do you have a question for Chris?
Yeah, tell me a little bit about your business model. How do you make money? How often? And what's the amount?
So with the software application itself, it's basically a simple ERP system built around these regulations. And we charge companies for use of that. So anywhere from around $10,000 to $50,000 annually. On top of that, we charge the brands around 10 cents per bottle for every product that they produce.
And you talked about paid pilots. How are those coming along, and how long have you been doing them?
So we just started that actually a few weeks ago with a few brands. So just kind of in the initial phases of that, kind of still initial conversations going, but so far the feedback has been well received, and they're excited to move forward.
And do you also, besides the issue with some contamination, but what about just the products that just don't do anything or don't work?
So that's one thing. Yeah, we're not planning to kind of work with every single product in the market. There's some that are just, like you said, they just don't work, so those are kind of companies we'll just kind of leave be. Yeah.
All right. So your focus is on making sure that they're pure, or the purity of them, right?
Right. Yes.
Is anybody else doing this now?
They're not anyone's really providing that batch specific information that we are. You'll see kind of other companies that are kind of doing the QR code stuff, like Smart Label, that will provide information on the brands, but nothing as like fine detailed as we are. And as we all know, everyone's kind of looking into blockchain for supply chain management too. So that they are doing that, but again, not as kind of detailed that we're doing.
Yeah, I think my advice would be, if it works, there's going to be a lot of other competitors. So I'd be looking at how do you create moats,
right,
in your business strategy. But no, very interesting business and business model. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Daniel, we're going to go next to you for questions for Chris.
Yeah. Curious how the first 12 months of the beta testing has gone, and maybe you could talk us through some of the early feedback you've gotten from customers.
Yeah, so the first 12 months was with that ERP system that I kind of mentioned. So like I said, around 60% are still using kind of paper and pen or Word and Excel to document anything. A running joke within these industries is that GMP does not stand for good manufacturing practices. It actually stands for get more people, get more paper, So since we've been kind of automating all of these processes and everything for them, they've really loved the fact that they can kind of just go through their whole production process or shipping and receiving, and all of that would kind of be automated and documented, immediately, and not anything they have to kind of go back and check on. So they've been very excited to use it. They've helped us build it, kind of throughout and everything. And we really just kind of launched that MVP with that a few months ago, and just been incorporating it with these initial paid pilots too.
Gotcha. Then can you talk through some of the ROI chain? Are they able to stamp something saying, they're following all the standards, and maybe that increases their sales? Or can you just speak to that?
Can you repeat that? You cut off a little bit there in the beginning.
Yeah, sorry, my connection's poor. Just maybe speak to the ROI in terms of using the software and how maybe it contributes to increased sales.
Yeah, so one of the pieces of ROI for these companies is that the automated documentation piece. So it saves a lot on paper. I know one company we work with, they were spending close to $200,000 annually on just, printing stuff, storing paper and everything. And now that we're digitalizing their processes for them, it saves them that amount, annually. On top of that, with the transparency with kind of those branded QR codes that we're offering, that's not on the market yet, but what we've seen from other transparency programs is that it can actually increase sales for these health products around up to 20%.
Wow. Great, thank you.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. Joy, do you have a question for Chris?
Yes. So I'm familiar with kind of how some of the QR codes work. So there's a seafood company that does that here and actually provides sustainability information. So from a consumer standpoint, if I scan that QR code while I'm standing in the market, right, I'll be able to actually validate this. It's going to bring up a database and kind of show me everything on the other side that you validated on the back end, correct?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then tell me a little bit about your team. So who actually wrote the code behind this? Is that one of your co-founders? So you actually own the IP? Just give me a little bit of background behind that.
Right. So as far as the coding, we pretty much bootstrapped the company initially, used some offshore developers. And I have no technical background, so I realized later on that that was not the best idea, But over the 2 years we've kind of been working on this, we actually picked up a CTO who has over 30 years of software development experience. So he's been helping us refactor everything. He has former startup experience as well with a successful exit. So he's fully on board now, and working with us to implement new things and fix the stuff that we messed up on in the beginning. Yeah.
It's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. So actually, you kind of led into my last question, which was, so you've bootstrapped things so far. Are you looking to raise capital? And if so, at what point in time? And kind of give me the purpose. I think I know the use of capital, but just reaffirm that for me.
Right. So initially, we raised around $70,000 through family and friends and kind of got our MVP built. We just finished a seed round with $500,000 through some people within the industry itself, and actually some of the owners of the companies we work with invested too to do that. We're thinking about doing an additional $1 million with this, and that's mainly going to go towards software development and things. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you.
Great, Chris. Any other questions from the panel on that? All right, Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So with that, we have reached the end of our 5 companies that have participated in this cohort. So thank you very much for listening to that. We have a couple of extra minutes to take some audience questions that have been put together. Don't waterfall a whole bunch of other ones, but before I do that, I want to thank our panel. I want to thank Daniel, Mark, and Joy for participating. I want to thank Mike Meidel and Chris for their opening remarks in getting us started today. And I want to thank the overall community for what they've done to support a program like this by providing us the companies to work in the cohort, by providing us the resources and the expertise to actually fill this agenda of 12 weeks with some incredible content and some great peer-to-peer conversations. So, if you are new to the program and you just saw some of the helpfulness just coming from our 3 panelists today, imagine that spread out over 12 weeks of the program, which is exactly, how we want programs like this to grow our overall tech ecosystem. So I appreciate the entire audience and that have attended today and supported this event. I would like to thank Pinellas County Economic Development again for all of their support in running this program and the overall support for Tampa Bay Innovation Center, and especially for the new building that we have on the agenda for groundbreaking middle of this year. So please stay tuned for that. Follow us on social media at TB Innovates. It'll work pretty much on everywhere, from Facebook to Instagram to LinkedIn as well. The mid-May timeframe, we will open up applications for cohort number 4. So if you are a technology company that's a little bit past the idea stage, or if you know a founder that's a little bit past the idea stage and is in the B2B space, I encourage you to contact us or to at least follow us on social media for when we do open up the applications. We'll be looking for a new cohort of anywhere between, say 7-8 companies to sit through the 12-week program again late summer. So the exact start date of the accelerator for cohort number 4 is still up in the air, but we will open up applications. We'll keep the application process open for probably a good 2.5 months, doing the interviews for companies, and we'll be doing this all over again. So I appreciate your support for that. With that, I'm actually going to just thank the panel again for their participation. It's always a lot of fun having you and having your support, both at the showcase event and of course during the 12-week program. And Daniel, since you're new to the group, I invite you to come and participate in cohort number 4, because I'm sure that we could have a great conversation and there would be a ton of great Q&A from the companies participating. With that, I'm going to bring up all the companies again, or if Tanya is still driving the bus in the background, yeah, because she's still a host. Tanya, could you bring up the founders again, and maybe we'll just do a little audience Q&A. If you can't stick around, I understand. I appreciate the time that you've spent with us, but we did have a couple of questions, and because we said we were going to run this till 3, I am going to read off a couple of questions that we got from the audience during the session, and they're targeted at individual founders. and we'll just go from there if that's okay with everybody. So we have Johnny, we have Gabriel. Did we lose Chris? Well, we have Nick. Okay. The first question I have is for Gabe at Blockspaces. Could you briefly walk us through an example of a client that you've worked with?
Yeah, so like right now we're working with USF, University of South Florida, on a distributed identity pilot program where students will be able to hold digital credentials on their mobile device. So that is underway currently right now.
All right, great. Thanks, Gabe. I appreciate it. The next question, also for Gabe Higgins at Blockspaces. The comment was excellent growth for month over month. Is that mostly from pilot participants or from integration partners? So looking at a little granularity of your revenue there.
Yeah, so it's a little bit, it's neither right now. So our revenue is being derived from the foundational aspect of our platform, which is the integration into different nodes for different networks. And it turns out there's a market for that. So right now we're leveraging that with a few customers that were interested in having us pilot those nodes for them. So they're not technically integrating anything yet, but we're building our platform on top of that infrastructure that we've deployed.
All right, super. Nick from Code One Medical. Any chance for some support from SBIR, STTRs, any type of government grants that you may be chasing or may be considering in the future?
Yes, so we're actually preparing a couple proposals for the NSF and NIH. So the NSF does like a project pitch, and so we're preparing that right now. Probably not STTRs unless we come in contact with a research organization.
Okay, great. That's the extent of the questions that I had. Do any of the panelists have any follow-up questions? Hearing none. Oh, go ahead, Joy.
No, I don't have any questions. I just want to say great job. I mean, it's interesting when you actually get to speak to the companies as they're going through the cohort and then see them sort of at the end and kind of how things have changed during that time period. So I think everyone has come a long way in refining their product pitch and putting together the stats and pieces that they're going to need to carry the companies forward. So I would just commend the founders on the work that they put in during the course of the program.
And I'll just say a parting comment too. So I've been doing this coaching and working with the entrepreneurial ecosystem for well over a decade now, and the cohorts and the entrepreneurs in this community just keep getting better and better. We have unbelievably ratcheted up our level of quality in terms of people's businesses, the ideas, the entrepreneurs that are behind them. So hats off to all you guys. It's another, I think the best cohort ever. So I think you guys are just doing a fabulous job. And I think every one of you here has a viable business model, and I encourage you to pursue it.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the kind words. With that, I'm going to wrap things up, but with one final challenge to the audience members that have attended that are off screen, is that we are here for you. We are here for your ideas. We are here to help and be a resource for the community. Part of what you can do, if you're not starting a company, you can still help us out, because all the companies here need customers. They need feedback. They need user research. They need the engagement with the business and the technical community around here. So if you're in a position to help any of these companies, they're not all local because we have Gabriel up in Boston, but there's no boundaries to the type of company that could leverage any of these products. So if you're in a position to help these companies, even if it's with research and feedback, by all means, their future is in your hands. So please, let's come together as a community, help out these companies, help them grow. The trains have already left the station. We can help them get more and more momentum. We can refer other customers and people that we know. We can refer potential employees. We can certainly refer potential investors. All of these are helpful resources that we as a community can bring to bear to keep this momentum, not just of this program going, but of the companies that go through this program and the previous cohorts behind it. So with that, I thank you all for your attendance and your patience this afternoon. We are just at the 3 o'clock time limit, so I'm glad everyone kept on schedule. Thank you for participating, and we'll see you for cohort number 4. Take care, folks.